Yeah, first I started boxing when I was started competing when I was 10. But prior to that, when I was about 3 or 4 years of age, my whole thing was being able to punch really hard, knocking people out. Even in primary school, when other kids were fighting and wrestling on the floor, my thing was just landing single punches and knocking people out. And that's just always been my party piece. That's been my trick. Everyone's known me throughout the years for just being able to punch ridiculously hard. So I was always going to get into boxing. Everyone said I should be a boxer. Did martial arts for a while, but I soon realised martial arts was about the art of self-defence when I just wanted to attack everybody. So boxing was, so at the age of 10 I went to the Fitzroy Lodge Amateur Boxing Club in Lambeth in London, and I was there for 10 years having international fights all over the world, and I became the second best heavyweight in the world. Got a silver medal at the World Championships in Belfast in 2001, and then turned pro. I think it was a year later, and then sort of the rest is history. The professional career sort of pushed forward. Yeah, Dad, I was born without a doubt. I was born to be a boxer. As soon as I was born with a black eye. Everyone said, "Hey, he looks like a little boxer." My face all wrinkled up with a black eye. I looked like a boxer who'd done 12 rounds. Really ugly as well. So everyone said I was going to be a boxer from day one, and I think that sort of just stuck with me. And I've always loved boxing. My family are big boxing people. None of them actually box themselves, but they've all been all boxing fans. On my mum's side and my father's side, everyone in my family loves boxing. So I was always gonna be a boxer. Yeah, when I was 18, I boxed a guy called Courtney Fry, who at the time was the Commonwealth gold medalist, European silver medalist. He was the British national champion, I think 3 years in a row. I was only 18 years old, and I managed to knock him out in 2 rounds. So that was a massive victory. That was my first big victory. Then went on to compete in different tournaments, Copenhagen Box Cup, boxed in Croatia, boxed in Poland, boxed all over the world, Houston, Texas. I boxed all over the world, fighting good international opposition and winning. And that was something that I feel gave me a good foundation for turning professional. So when I do turn professional, I know I fought different styles, different sizes of people, and I feel that's definitely gave me the ground and the foundation it takes to take my professional level to that next stage. So far, the Jean-Marc Mormec fight that took place in Levallois on the outskirts of Paris in 2007 was my biggest achievement. He was a very tough customer. He was the #1 fighter on the planet at cruiserweight. He'd been around he'd only lost one fight in 10 years, and he got revenge on that one loss he had against O'Neill Bell the year before. He was a very tough, tricky customer. He had a very good defense, a very, very good chin, get good head movement, and he gave me a really, really tough fight. He really did. In the fourth round, he caught me with a left hook, a very short left hook that I didn't see coming. And the next thing you know, my legs were going crazier, and I was on the floor taking a count. But even then, even though I was down, I still had my wits about me. I still realised that this guy's dangerous, and if I stick to my game plan, which was to break him down, keep the pace slow until the 6th round, and then as soon as the 7th round starts, that's when I start picking it up. So my whole plan was to take it easy through the first 6 rounds, and then start to really push it from 7 till 12. And as soon as the 6th round went, which I feel I won on all the judges' scorecards, I was ready to start really putting the pedal to the metal and really start pushing Jean-Marc Mormet, because I felt he didn't have the best stamina in the world. So I wanted to test that. And that's exactly what happened. In the 7th round, I picked up the pace. I started putting my punches together. I started working his body, hitting him with good right hooks to the body, good left hooks to the body. Threw a bigger right hook around the top, and I could see in his eyes that he was hurt, that he was gone. So I just put a barrage of punches together and took him out. He went down on the floor. He looked real sorry for himself. He got up, and the referee Cavalieri just realised that he had nothing left, and I was the new WBA, WBO, Ring Magazine undisputed champion of the world, and that was by far my biggest and greatest achievement. My whole thing throughout my career is to be the heavyweight champion of the world. Even though I was quite small when I turned professional, I was a cruiserweight. I wasn't the biggest cruiserweight in the world, but as time went on, I sort of developed into the weight, and I still told people I'm going to be the heavyweight champion of the world. I ended up winning the undisputed cruiserweight champion. I went to Levallois on the outskirts of Paris in France to beat Jean-Marc Mormec, who was the WBC and WBA and Ring Magazine, cruiserweight champion of the world. I went out there to his home turf and knocked him out. I then came back to the UK and fought the WBO cruiserweight champion Enzo Macronelli in a packed out 20,000 arena, O2 Arena in Greenwich, and I knocked him out in 2 rounds. So I've got big accomplishments in the cruiserweight division, and but that's not enough for me. I know I wouldn't be satisfied with just being the undisputed cruiserweight champion. I want to be the undisputed heavyweight champion, and to do that, I've got to beat this giant of a man, Nikolai Valuev, 7'2", 350 pounds. He's the biggest heavyweight champion in history, in weight and in size, and that's definitely a task that I have to win. I really do. I've trained my whole life for this one night. It's going to be amazing. Yeah, Evander Holyfield for me has sort of shown the blueprint of how to go up and do it. He was the best cruiserweight in the world, without a question, and same as I was. He then went up to the heavyweight division and fought Buster Douglas, after Buster Douglas knocked Mike Tyson out in Tokyo. So, he beat the best possible heavyweight out there, and he knocked him out. He did it in great fashion, did it in great style, and he became a great heavyweight, beating good names, good fighters, beating Mike Tyson, beating, fighting, had the trilogy with Riddick Bowe, Lennox Lewis, getting the draw of Lennox Lewis. He's had some real big nights, some real great occasions. And for me, Evander Holyfield has shown that, a great little man can beat a good big man. He's definitely an all-time great heavyweight, and definitely someone that's shown me that it can be done. I think the reason why I've had so many KOs in my career is because I go into a ring with the mindset of, I have to knock you out. That's it. I'm not thinking about points. I'm not thinking about being clever, being cute. I just think about landing my hand as hard as I can, as quickly as I can, and as often as I can on my opponent's chin. And that sort of intensity and fury really does, it frightens people. And when they're in there, they talk big before the fight, but when they're in the ring with me and they see the look in my eyes, the fact that I genuinely do want to knock them out, that they change their game plan, and I can really then start implementing what I do best, and that's throwing haymakers. I think preparation is key for me. Getting it right in the gym, is no substitute for that. No matter what you feel mentally, you're good at. If you can't do it in the gym, then the likelihood is you're probably not going to be able to do it in the fight. So I make sure that everything that I want to do in the fight, I can do comfortably in the gym. If I want to do 12 rounds in a fight, I've got to be able to do 15, 16 rounds in the gym. So I always try and push myself that extra bit in the gym. So when the fight comes around, it's relatively easy. The fight is always harder because you wear the littler gloves. You're not wearing the head protection. You haven't got the luxury of being able to stop if you've got an injury or something like that. In the fight, you've just got to go through whatever you've got to go through to get the victory. But the preparation is key for me, and that's one thing that I've made sure that I've focused on throughout my career. And as time's gone on, my preparation's got better, tighter, everything's logged, it's very professional, and I feel that's definitely one of the reasons why I've been so successful. Yeah, I've had to change my training techniques and methods quite drastically to fight Nikolai Valuev. First off, he's huge. He's where normally I'm quite a big cruiserweight, so I'm used to punching down, lower than my head level. This time around, I've got to be punching up, and you use completely different muscle groups to do that. So I've had to train my arms to punch at a different angle. Not only also with defense, normally where I can block a shot here, the shot's coming down at me here, so I've got to block in a different position. Everything's different. So I've had to implement bigger sparring partners, guys who are punching down at me. And it's awkward, it's hard, it's very difficult, it's not easy, but I feel I've cracked it in the gym now, and the things I've been doing in the gym I believe will work in the fight. I don't really switch on mentally for the fight until literally I'm in the changing room warming up to do the fight. I'm obviously focused on the fight, but I do feel you can waste too much nervous energy focusing on the fight too far away from the fight. If it's the day of the morning of your fight and you're doing shadow boxing in your room, what difference is that shadow boxing going to make to your fight later on? None. All it means you're nervous and you're using up energy. So I try to just completely chill out the whole way up to the fight, and only then gradually start a nice progressive slow build up before the fight. So by the time I get into the ring, that's the first time that day that's anything happens. So all my energy stores are full, and I'm ready for battle, ready for war. When I get through the ropes against this guy, I'm expecting to see, you know, a monster. You know, I've seen him in the flesh, and the guy is freaky. I've never seen a human being as big. You know, I've met Shaq before. I've met the Big Show from WWE, but these guys didn't seem as big as Nikolai Valuev. They're supposed to be the same size or similar size, but for some reason they didn't seem. Their shoulders weren't as big. Their head wasn't as big. It's weird, you know. I've never seen a human being as big as him. And I'm really looking forward to actually going into the battle situation against something like that. You know, the old biblical tale of David fighting Goliath. Well, they've billed this as David and Goliath this time around. You know, David needed a slingshot to topple Goliath. You know, I've only got my left and right fist, so it's going to be interesting. I'm really looking forward to it, and I truly believe I'll be the next heavyweight champion of the world. For me to win this WBA title and then to get a unification fight with either of the Klitschko brothers, that's my ultimate ambition. You know, once I've got the title off Nikolai Valuev, I'll then be in the driving seat. I won't then have to, you know, succumb to some of their crazy demands. You know, it'll be a 50-50 thing. If they want my WBA title, then we can sit around the table and talk as men, you know, as champions. And that's what I'm looking forward to. You know, we've tried to work with these guys before, and they didn't treat me with respect. But once I've won this title, they will truly have to treat me with respect. For me to win the heavyweight championship, the WBA heavyweight championship off Nikolai Valuev on November 7th, would mean everything to me. It would sort of be a lifelong ambition fulfilled. You know, I told everybody I will be the heavyweight champion. I will have that big belt, a big shiny belt around my waist, and you know, the fight's around the corner. You know, I can taste it, I can feel it. It's there. I know what I need to do to beat this guy. The guy's very effective. You know, he's beaten 50 opponents. You know, he's knocked a lot of them out. You know, everybody who's fought him has said he's a lot better than they gave him credit for. He doesn't look too pretty when he's in there, but he's so big and so strong. His arms are so long that it gives everybody a hard night. And for me to overcome that obstacle and beat him, and you know, go down in history as only the second man in history to be the cruiserweight and then the heavyweight champion, it would mean everything to me. For me to have my name sort of etched in history, in you know, the Hall of Fame, the Boxing Hall of Fame, you know, that's something I don't really think about, to be honest. But you know, if that could somehow happen one day, then you know, I could die a happy man. You know, I've watched, you know, great fighters throughout the years. You know, and if people consider me one day, long past I've retired, that I was a major force, you know, in the heavyweight division, then you know, I've more than achieved my goals, and I could then be a very happy person.
All World Sport videos are free to share and embed. Just click on the share button underneath this video. And don't forget to sign up to our RSS feed to keep up to date with all the latest videos on worldsport.tv.